Hi, Paul Thompson from Spitfire Audio. I've got something really exciting for you today. Something that we started in 2018. Ólafur came to us with an idea for a string library that could respond to the things that you're playing and give you notes in the correct tonality of the things that you're playing, almost feeling like a kind of collaboration with the players, but all with that kind of incredible beauty of sound as well. Now, we made a series of test sessions in 2018, and then, of course, COVID happened. So now we have finally brought the project to fruition. So recorded in the beautiful Symphonia Nord studios in Iceland by Icelandic players, Ólafur conducting every note, and also this incredible synth engine as well, with Ólafur playing all of his favourite sounds on his vintage synths, which have the same scale mode functionality. This is a huge, incredibly detailed and powerful library. I'm going to take you through a few of the basic functionalities so that you can see how it works. And along the way, I'll tell you a little bit more about each of the different types of recordings we've put into the library. So when you open the library, the first thing that you see are the cells patches, the full band patches, which we're in at the moment, which have these presets. And then, of course, the synths. We'll come to that in a minute. So first up, the cells articulation. Now, the way that these work is if you play very softly, you get a unison repetition. And again, these are all kind of slightly random and aleatoric sounding. As you play harder, you'll see that the scale mode creates new intervals for you based on the scale that you have set. There is also a played mode which interprets what you're playing, but we'll come to that in a minute. Now, when you press very hard, you get the two-note versions where the players are playing two different notes, again, within the scale that you've set. I'm going to give you an example. Let's set a Lydian scale first of all. Now you can see that you can also adjust these manually, but it's also very straightforward to pick a kind of basic tonality and then you can tweak it exactly to your liking. So with the Lydian scale, for example, let me press very softly on middle C. Okay, so very basic, very simple. You can see that I'm moving the variation slider here to move between a sparse and a more dense sounding repetition. If we play slightly harder, then you can see that we get that smallest possible interval in this particular scale, which is the +2. So it's two semitones up. So that's playing C's and D's. If I press a bit harder, okay, you get the idea. So we're increasing the interval. If I press very hard, so you can see that you've got two notes going there, but also I can ride the dynamic controller to move between recordings which have been made with a much softer, gentler dynamic and then with a more strident, solid, harder dynamic. Now, the real excitement comes when you start playing different notes and you start to hear the interplay. And as Ólafur's noted, you get these little melodies being created within the interplay of the different notes and intervals that are coming out. We call it pseudo-random because it feels like it's a random thing. It feels like you've instructed the players, okay, here's what I want you to do on this note, but just in your own time, play these things. But also, it always plays back exactly the same. So when you play back, if you're in record in MIDI and you record a series of MIDI notes, those MIDI notes, it won't play different intervals or different versions of the performance when you play it back, which is, of course, essential. You want it to be exactly the same when you play it back. But there's a huge amount of variability just within the playing itself. So here we go. Let's go for it. C Lydian. so crazy. I'm hardly doing anything, but just triggering these notes. I'm not even moving any controllers. Of course, you can then vary the sparseness of the performance and all kinds of stuff. It's so cool. Let's just jump straight back in. I'm going to do something now on played mode. Now, this is really clever. I'm going to leave root detection off, but if you had root detection on, then it would select the root as the lowest note that you're playing. But just check this out. Again, I'm just going to leave these controllers. I'm going to have it on medium density, but I'm also going to have the dynamic controller about halfway. Just check this out. It's so cool. I can't actually believe it. I'm going between completely different tonalities on the keyboard, changing from, something very natural into something that's really got a flat tonality, changing chords along the way. It just seamlessly picks up everything you're doing and creates the intervals that work in that new chord. It's just so much fun to play. Now, there's so many different patches here. It's so deep. So this is the motion articulation. This is the first of the patches that I'm showing you that has this gliss articulation in, and you can see that it happens when you hit the keys very hard. So with this one, you have 0 to 30 plays unison, so you always have access to unison. 31 to 90 plays medium intervals, but according to the scale mode again. Then you have a layer that is from 91 to 115 that plays octave intervals, and then you have the gliss layer on top of that. So super controllable. Check this out. Oh my goodness, this is so much fun. If we want to go for parallel motion as well, we have mainly unison and then gliss at the top. Just with the velocity that you're using on the keyboard, you can control all of these different things, all of these different functions kicking in. This setup of these different articulations and the way that everything interlocks and the layout has been very, very carefully designed and planned by Ólafur. So you've got all kinds of variations in here. And then if we go through, you can obviously just control, you can just isolate the individual thing that you want. So if we literally, all we want is, let's say, shimmer, and I just want it like that. Let me put it back into played mode. So if you can hear within there, you're getting the kind of like da 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 da. You're getting these little melodies up here. It's so inspiring, because actually a really cool way of using this is to start to sketch out the actual harmony, the kind of melodic structure of the section that you're working on, and then just try different things, listen out for those little melodies, and then you can bring them out on other instruments. It's like an automatic melody generator at the same time as being this really beautiful textural thing. I want to show you the synth version while we're here, because this really is wonderful as well. Actually, let's stay in played mode. Again, we have the same dynamic control here, and then we've got these different setups here. So these have all been preset according to the exact sound that we're using. But let's just jump in. We've got 3 different synths. And then the mallet swarm, where you get more activity the harder you play. This is really cool as well. Switch this scale mode off, but just check this out. So if I'll start gently and I'll work my way up. I've never used anything like that before, where as you're playing, and of course, you know, a really great way of using this is just re-triggering notes to get them to sing more, to do more stuff, or then pull them back. So just as you're playing, you can kind of orchestrate this amazing interaction with the synths. They kind of, more stuff happens, and then you can pull it right back. It's very, very creative. Let's jump into the basses. So we've got the bass section, which has a couple of different things. There's your straightforward longs. So as you can hear, you've got a really lovely solid underneath. They're still played in this beautiful emotive fashion, even though they're down there. And as you get higher up in the basses, you get this kind of viol-like sound, which gives you a really lovely plaintive, pure tone. Now there's an alternative to that, which sounds slightly different. Check this out. And then we've got the long sparse. Which has that kind of lovely repeating bowing texture. And then the medium, which is slightly more. Very, very useful and a perfect match to the sounds that we have within the library. Now, as you scroll down, you'll see there are synth sounds in here. Now, we're going to get to the eDNA engine shortly because, yes, this also has a whole load of stuff programmed in the eDNA engine, which gives you another dynamic of control. But here we've got a collection of Ólafur's favourite synth sounds. And if you are a fan of his music as I am, you will know that these sounds are the sounds that Ólafur gets from his vintage collection of synthesizers are so characterful and so beautiful. Here are the basses. Just check these out. You've got all of your controls here for attack, decay, sustain, release. It's everything that you need from a sub. It's just so good. The sub sounds in this bass are there, but they're not too fat. They're just solid. They give you the underneath. They occupy the sound but they don't have that low mid kind of honkiness that a lot of subs have. So good. Check out some of these. Some wonderful swells. And then these great sounds that are rat-a-tat-tat-tat. They just kind of bloom in a really fantastic way. Different types. So great, such a lovely kind of blurry. Okay, let's check out the pads. So good. And then a soft one. Absolute gold dust. These are just so good for scoring, so good for background sounds. Just, oh, it's absolute gold dust. Absolute gold dust. There's a whole section of warp stuff here. Again, beautifully designed, created by Ólafur in his studio using his own outboard, cool outboard processing, granular strings. Everything is absolutely soaked in character. I have to move on, but there's no filler here. I think you can hear it's just, there's so much stuff in this library. Every sound starts a new cue. Here's a good one. There's all kinds of stuff. It's so cool. Let's keep going. We're into the individual sections now. So you can then load up just those sounds that are, for example, in the combi layout. It sounds complicated, but you'll get your head around it very, very quickly. It's super easy to learn. And of course, you could just load patches and just play and see what comes out. But it's very, very straightforward if you know exactly what you want. So you're like, I know what I want. I want the major second sound in the long combi, so I can go like this. Or you might be going for this kind of thing. Or you might think, I want access to all the glisses and I want to use the ones that we refer to as major and minor seventh. You could think about those as seconds as well. So for example, the major second would be the minor seventh. It's just the way that they're performed by the players. But just check this out. Or so there's all kinds of cool effects. And obviously I'm just playing everything on one patch. I'm playing everything on one keyboard. The way that I've really enjoyed working with this so far, and it's rapidly become my favorite new library, is that I am using, I'm setting up different tracks and then I'm focusing on a specific track, the exact sound that I want to get. So you can have the general movements and textures and different intervals and things triggering on one track while you insert some glissandos with a very specific interval that you want to hear from one note to the next on the other track. So there's loads and loads of different ways of using this. Now, we've looked at all of this stuff, an absolute treasure trove here, but we can also switch into synth mode. Now, here we have the eDNA engine. It's set up in such a way that you can just get going immediately and start using the sounds that you recognize from the individual. So for example, if we want to go that rat-a-tat 3, you've got that up here. And you can start messing around with it. You can pull out a sound from here, for example, a soft organ sound, and put those together. Let's go somewhere in the middle. So let's get the gate sequencer up here, and maybe we want to offset a few of these. Just something like that, maybe. And of course, you can kind of set each side completely differently. There's all kinds of stuff you can do in here. Lots and lots of different effects. A very, very powerful engine. But to get you going, if you scroll past these, there are 35 amazing presets. Just to start you off. And you can control, of course. You can set the mixer to oscillate. That's incredibly straightforward. Lots of great controls in there. So much really, really cool stuff in there. And then we can leap back over to standard mode. Let me jump back into the full band patch. I'll go for the motion articulation. Let me use played mode. And off we go. Let's have a quick listen to the different mixes. So mix 1, for simplicity, I'm just going to load the cells dense. Mix 2. So slightly closer sound, a more detailed sound. Here we've got the condensers, so vintage Neumann condenser mics. You can really hear the fingers on the strings, the bow noises, those tentative, beautiful fragments. Now you've got the ribbon mics here. So again, you've got that closeness, that texture, that immediacy. But you've got two interesting extra things. You've got the slight roll off of the high frequencies, which gives it a slightly warmer sound, but also the fact that all ribbon mics are figure of 8. So you've got an extra kind of spatial perspective as well behind the players. So it's a slightly different sound to the condensers. Next up is the tree. Gives you that very characteristic, slightly more classical sound. The ambience. We've got these two effects chains. This is a space echoes into the EMT 245. And finally, delays and frequency time modulation. So a huge level of detail there, a huge amount of variety that you can use to kind of shape a sound that gives you something really, really unique sounding. So there we have it. Ólafur Arnalds cells. It's the distillation of those initial ideas, those initial test patches from 2018, which Ólafur has used on all kinds of stuff, on Kiasmos records, on his scores. And this is the actual perfect distillation of that concept and that idea. We've got the new version of scale mode with the played mode. You can see very clearly on scale mode now which notes are playing, which intervals are being triggered. You've got all of these incredible articulations so that you can use the different layout of the patches to get the exact combination of sounds that you want. It's immensely controllable, recorded in this beautiful studio by the incredible Icelandic musicians, all directed, the performances directed by Ólafur himself. It's just soaked in that musicianship and in Ólafur's kind of characteristic style and sensibility. It's an incredibly beautiful sounding library, but it's immensely detailed and powerful under the hood, but very, very easy to use. It's absolutely great. You've got all the different signals, different signals for the string recordings, different signals for the synth recordings, the eDNA engine. Really, the world is your oyster with this. There's so much stuff that you can do with it. It's just an absolute playground of sound. It really is. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're going to enjoy using cells. I'm really looking forward to hearing what people do with it. It really is very, very powerful. You can do all kinds of different stuff with it. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see as people start posting their music using cells. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.